Every once in a while I'm stopped by someone that asks me a question about being on the school board, if I'm still on the school board and why anyone would want to be on the school board. And I tell them it's such an important job and D303 is such a great district and I'm just energized by the work. And then I often perceive kind of a negative tone and they'll say something like, well, I'm glad it's you and not me. And I think to myself, yes, I am glad it's me, and I go on about my day. I could talk about D303 for hours. So last week I came to the office to talk to Jim Blaney about this video and ask him if he had a theme and something that could help me focus my thoughts. However, actually, I came to the office to show everyone this. This is Layton Carolina Huell, our granddaughter. Actually, this is our first grandchild, and we are happy and proud and thinking about the future in a way we haven't before. And we're also wondering how we'll fit into her life and what role we'll play. And Jim Blaney picked up my phone. He said, you know, this is what it's all about. And at that moment in this last week, something has gone from here to here. And I realize how precious this child is to us, how precious every child is to their parent, their family, this community and its future, and to their grandparents too. And I realize how profound life is, even more so than with my own children. And so that's why I know this is why I do what I do, and the board does what it does, and why every employee here is here also. And all I can say is, I'm glad it's me.
I was an at-home mom and I needed some side money, my own little spending money, and I started doing it a little part-time gig. And I fastly discovered how much I love the kids. Every single kid, doesn't matter who they are, where they come from, I love them. And that is why I continue being a bus driver, because of the kids. And at the end of the year, there's always a little tear for little Joey or little Sarah, because I may not see them again next year because we have different routes. So it's because of the kids. Always about the kids.
Over the last month, many of us have tuned in to watch the Summer Olympics. And while many events and traditions have stayed relatively the same, there are also others that have gone through significant changes. Take gymnastics, for instance. When I was growing up, we knew that the very best score was a perfect 10. Over the course of time and after several judging controversies, we now see scores in the 15s and 16s. Now, the new system has its flaws, just like the old system had its own flaws. And we certainly don't understand the nuances of every tenth of a point or starting score values. But over time, we become more knowledgeable about it. We listen to the experts, we study and we watch. Maybe we even practice for ourselves. Myself, I started trying to predict the scores myself and came pretty close to them by the end of the Olympics. And as we become more knowledgeable, it takes on more meaning. The same thing exists in our education system. Our profession has a lot of things that continue to be the same, but we're going to see a lot of big changes this year. Senate Bill 100 forces us to take additional steps towards unruly behavior. But I challenge you to think about why students might act out in the classroom. I encourage you to learn about ACEs and learn about other factors that influence a student's ability to learn in the classroom. Many of us are going to be facing the new para-evaluation law, which goes into effect this year. And I challenge you to make it a meaningful experience. Choose assessments that really reflect what's going on in your classroom. Prove to the policymakers that no matter how they want to evaluate us, we can show them that D303 teachers are darn good teachers. Now, I haven't even brushed the surface of all the challenges we're going to be facing this year. New science curriculum, elections at the national, state, and local level. Heck, we're even going to be continuing the conversation about how to improve our middle school buildings. But the important thing is I want you to be a part of that change. We want your eyes and ears. We want your voice. We want your energy. We want your expertise. We want you to get out and vote. Because if we all put our best foot forward, it might just be a golden opportunity.
Well, welcome to the new school year. It's hard to believe that school is starting already and summer is ending for us. Thinking back to when I was in high school, we had this program called Office Education, and basically it was a training ground on how to be a secretary. We learned how to use mimeograph machines because back then no one had a copy machine in their office. And we learned how to use computers, but they were actually massive key punch machines where you had to learn how to type a card and then insert it and run it through. Things were really different back then. This is way back in 1979. But thinking about it, when I go through the halls and I look at the kids, we have VEI, Virtual Enterprise, for kids where they're learning how to manage and create and run businesses. We have Project Design, where kids are designing cars and then presenting it as marketing strategies. So the skills that I learned back in Office Education that helped me to do my job here, our kids are so advanced and are learning to do so much more now for their careers and their futures. And thinking about all that, the common line that runs through everything is when I look back at my high school days, I see the teachers that cared about their students. I have teachers that I still remember because they were my mentors. And I see that today. So I just wanted to say thank you for all you do for our students and welcome to the 2016-2017 school year.
Well, good morning. I'm Don Schloman, Superintendent of Schools here in District 303. Over the last 10 years that I've had a chance to be a superintendent, well, some things may have changed, like my hair has gotten grayer, and somehow or another, I'm not sure how all this works, but the students seem to have gotten younger. But one thing has remained consistent. It's our ability to connect with students. It's that relationship that we have with students that is the most important thing. Yes, curriculum matters, of course it does. We have to be able to deliver on the content. And yes, technology matters. Our ability to open up the world through the use of technology is important for our students. And yes, even assessment matters. Our ability to look inside of a student to see what's going on is important through our assessments. But the most important thing that we do is our ability to establish a relationship with a student and inspire that student to achieve. So I thought today I'd bring along somebody else to say that message. So as they say in the movies, roll that footage.
This will revolutionize education. No prediction has been made as often or as incorrectly as that one. In 1922, it was Thomas Edison who declared that the motion picture is destined to revolutionize our educational system, and that in a few years it will supplant largely, if not entirely, the use of textbooks. Yeah, and you know how that worked out? By the 1930s, it was radio. The idea was you could beam experts directly into classrooms, improving the quality of education for more students at lower cost. And that would mean you require fewer skilled teachers, a theme common to all of the proposed education revolutions, like that of educational television in the 1950s and 60s. Studies were conducted to determine whether students preferred watching a lecture live or sitting in an adjacent room where the same lecture was broadcast via closed-circuit TV. What would you prefer? In the 80s, there was no debating. Computers were the revolutionary solution to our educational woes. They were audiovisual, interactive, and could be programmed to do almost anything you like. Well, at the time they could run Oregon Trail, but their potential was obvious. Researchers suspected that if they could teach kids to program, say how to move a turtle around a screen, then their procedural reasoning skills would also improve. So how did it go? Well, the students got better at programming the turtle, but their reasoning skills were unaffected. Even by the 1990s, we had not learned from the failure of our past predictions. And I quote, "The use of video discs in classroom instruction is increasing every year and promises to revolutionize what will happen in the classroom of tomorrow." Video discs? Yeah, those giant oversized CD things. Remember when they revolutionized education? Nowadays, plenty of things are poised to revolutionize education, like smartboards, smartphones, tablets, and MOOCs. Those are massive open online courses. And some believe we're getting close to a universal teaching machine, a computer so quick and well programmed that it's basically like having your own personal tutor in a machine. A student could work through well-structured lessons at their own pace, receiving immediate and personally tailored feedback, and all without the interference of a meddlesome and expensive teacher. Do these claims sound familiar? Over the past 100 years, a lot of areas of life have been revolutionized, but education is not one of them. By and large, students are still taught in groups by a single teacher, and that is not what a revolution looks like. Some might blame this state of affairs on the inertia of our educational institutions. It's just too hard to get a huge bureaucracy to change. But I think the reason technology hasn't revolutionized education is something else. Something that goes to the very heart of what education is. Let's consider the process of learning. Say you want to teach someone how a human heart pumps blood. Which learning aid do you think would be more effective? This animation with narration, or this set of static pictures with text? Obviously, the animation is better. I mean, for one thing, it shows exactly what the heart does. For decades, educational research focused on questions like this. Does a video promote learning better than a book? Are live lectures more effective than televised lectures? Is animation better than static graphics? In all well-controlled studies, the result is no significant difference. That is, so long as the content is equivalent between the two treatments, the learning outcomes are the same with all different media. How is this possible? How can something which seems so powerful, like animation, be no more effective than static graphics? Well, for one thing, animations are fleeting, and so you might miss something as they go by. Plus, since the parts are animated for you, you don't have to mentally envision how the parts are moving. And so you don't have to invest as much mental effort, which would make it more memorable. In fact, sometimes static graphics perform better than animations. And I think this points to a really fundamental aspect of education, which is it doesn't matter what happens around the learner. We are not limited by the experiences we can give to students. What limits learning is what can happen inside the student's head. That is where the important part of learning takes place. No technology is inherently superior to any other. Researchers spent so much time investigating whether one medium or technology was more effective than another that they failed to investigate exactly how to use the technology to promote meaningful thought processes. So the question really is, what experiences promote the kind of thinking that is required for learning? Recently, that research is being conducted, and we're finding out some pretty important stuff. I mean, it may sound obvious, but it turns out learning with words and pictures together, whether they're animation and narration or static pictures and text, works better than words alone. Also, we see that anything which is extraneous needs to be eliminated from a lesson. For example, on-screen text competes with visuals, so learners perform better when it is omitted than when it is present. Now that we know how best to make educational videos, and any experience can be simulated in the video setting, YouTube must be the platform that will revolutionize education. I mean, the number of educational videos on YouTube is increasing every day. So why do we need teachers? Well, if you think that the fundamental job of a teacher is to transmit information from their head to their students, then you're right, they are obsolete. I mean, you probably imagine a classroom where this teacher is spewing out facts at a pace which is appropriate for one student, too fast for half and too slow for the rest. Luckily, the fundamental role of a teacher is not to deliver information. It is to guide the social process of learning. The job of a teacher is to inspire, to challenge, to excite their students to want to learn. Yes, they also do explain and demonstrate and show things, but fundamentally, that is beside the point. The most important thing a teacher does is make every student feel like they are important, to make them feel accountable for doing the work of learning. All of this is not to say technology has had no impact on education. Students and teachers work and communicate via computers, and videos are used both inside and outside of classrooms. But all of this is best characterized as an evolution, not a revolution. The foundation of education is still based on the social interaction between teachers and students. For as transformative as each new technology seems to be, like motion pictures or computers or smartboards, what really matters is what happens inside the learner's head. And making a learner think seems best achieved in a social environment with other learners and a caring teacher.
Remember, it's about the relationships that we have with our students. That's the most important thing.